there and welcome to this episode of Smart Farming on IITA TV. This is a show designed to showcase and discuss digital tools that have been developed and adopted by IITA in assisting individuals in the agricultural value chain, be it in their agronomical practices, agribusiness practices, and even data management. Tolulokwe Akinla is my name, and I'm your host for this show. Today's episode, however, has a little twist to it, as we'll be focusing on digital tools that have been developed or that are tailored to achieve a climate-smart agriculture in Africa. And I have with me here a guest to help throw more light on this topic. He is the board director for Innovation Support Network, ISN. His name is Mr. Charles Emembolu. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here, yeah.
Thank you for joining us on the show. To start with, I'd like to ask, with climate change being a major problem for agriculture globally, what are the roles of digital technologies in addressing this bottleneck?
I think that this is 2024. 24 years ago, we had the whole .com digital or technology adoption, the boom and the bust, the millennia and all the rest of that. Then fast forward to 2020, 20 years later, COVID happened. And whatever the year 2000 didn't do for the world in terms of permeating digital technology, tools, services and products into the society, COVID did. So post 2020, we had the COVID. We had a lot of people who were before skeptical about technology. We had societies, we had people that needed to communicate. We were all locked down. The whole world was locked down. It was not anticipated, but it also came with its good news. The fact that for those of us who have a technology background and interest, it meant that there's no aspect of the society that technology has not permeated deeply. But when you bring it to climate actions or how climate affects agriculture, affects the society, we just had the issue in Maiduguri. I think it's this week. I don't know how much of it was predicted. I don't know how much of it could have been avoided if technology, because I don't have the details. But I can tell you for free that if you deploy tools, now we are talking about ChatGPT. It's not just ChatGPT. Those plugins, those generative tools have been around for over 20 years as well. I used a program called IBM Via Voice as far back as 1997, and I was able to train my voice and have it, take instructions via voice and understand my own particular intonation and accent. So climate change, digital tools that support it, that predict it, that enable us to know the soil texture, how it is changing, how it is being affected, Internet of Things that enable you to plug in digital capabilities to organic items, to physical items, and use that to have access to information. Web tools that take a lot of all of that data, aggregate it, slice and dice it, and then be able to provide insights, make meaningful outcome or predictive outcome, or have insights that enable us to improve a process or the way and manner we do things, or the interaction that those particular services or outcomes or products have with the people, with the human beings, in terms of us understanding that this water was safe to drink last 10 years, but because we are monitoring it, and that monitoring is real time, and it's able to measure immediately, crosses certain thresholds for certain chemicals, can immediately support us or provide us with access to, ability for information for people to make decisions. So there are quite a lot of those tools. Bringing it a bit closer home, especially in a wonderful center of excellence here like IITA, is the fact that there are a lot of these tools exist within research institutes, within the specific programs that have created or used them, But one of the greatest things about technology, especially digital technologies, is the usability, the ability to take that application and transfer it from one sector to the other. And the opportunities for future work is the ability to expose those technologies so that more people can know that it exists and utilize it directly or indirectly. Maybe utilize the information, the alarms that it can give, for instance, in the case of the flood, in planning, and a whole host of other things. Yesterday we visited the IITA gene bank, if I'm correct. That's where you store seeds and all sorts, different varieties of things. And I can imagine how difficult that storage would have been when you had to use punch cards, right? And how you could have tracked how the things came from different climate areas. That would be a lot of data sets, I work with data a lot. But with digital tools and technologies, you can compartmentalize it, first of all, with the interaction of the farmer, who can just be asked to do A, B, C without having to do so much, and to the system itself, which can then interpret that input, and then to the output, which can be given in a variety of forms, from the raw data to that being an input to another more integrated system like generative models, like artificial intelligence, that will then people can interact with on an individual basis. So imagine that you're contributing information from IITA's 18 or so stations across the world into a generative model, and that tool then becomes not static, but its intelligence keeps growing. And the fact that I can then sit in my house, go on a small chat box and ask a question like you do on most of your mobile phones today, and it will tell you whether it will rain or not. So all of these are opportunities that exist, but specific to climate is the fact that a lot of the work that is being done is like taking light and putting it under a bushel. The final thing I want to say on this is the local context. A lot of times I hear statements like the global best practices. Sometimes those best practices are defined without an African context or a local context in mind. So they are basically guidelines at best. So they are good, but they are guidelines. It then means that as you come closer, just like you have different variety that come from local beans here is not the same as beans from Brazil, for instance. So being able to understand that local context and having enough information and knowledge to improve the design, the development, and the utilization of these tools is quite critical in being able to get ahead in the interaction between man, science and technology, and our environment, which includes the question you asked around climate.
Thank you. That has been an insightful conversation, very expository, if I must add. In the course of your explanation, you tried to give how technology has evolved over the years, and also some of the technologies that have been developed over the course of time as well. And I think you also hinted on some of the challenges that has arisen with the invention of this technology. For instance, how that there's not so much, I don't use the word publicity now, but there's not so much spread of knowledge. So what would you say, or how do you think these bottlenecks can be addressed in ensuring that this technology gets to the end users or spreads as much as it should, so that we can have a massive effect, and exponential results?
Okay, I'll start with the very first one, which is very, very relevant from an African side of things, which is demographics. For Nigeria or most of Africa, I think 70% or more of the people are usually under 30 years. The tools, the resources, the research, and the know-how that we are talking about that affect climate tech is usually dealt with by people above 30 years. So there's that gulf or gap in terms of communication. So the way my 16-year-old daughter would consume information is not exactly the same way I will consume it. But if I'm at the forefront of developing a solution and my team average age is 40 and above, chances are that the outcome may not interest my 16-year-old daughter. From the interface to the design, then the worst part is even the places where that information that this exists could be found. They may not be the places that they will typically visit. So Africa has a young population. As we design, we have to be inclusive in our design. This also includes even the gender side of things. The way and manner we have unconscious biases. If I put out a banner advertising the use of tools and it is a guy or two guys talking to each other, suddenly the ladies could easily feel that this is for guys. Or you put it about ladies that are not looking fashion conscious, then you suddenly have started excluding the interest of those that would like to dress a bit more fashionable. But at the end, ultimately, all of us need food, all of us need food security, all of us need proper nutrition, and climate affects that, and tools and technology, services and products can help to improve that. So it means that because it is something that affects all of us, we need to ensure that those tools and services are put out in a way and manner that everybody interested can reach it and is interested in looking at it. The second thing I may add to this point is the fact that when you look at programming, okay. If I asked you, well, what are the national programs you know on agriculture? You will notice that a lot of them seem to be more charity driven. So it's almost like agriculture is not a business. But if I asked you about Big Brother Nigeria, you would suddenly realize that people will vote for their candidates, will get glued to their TV sets watching it in the hope of winning some millions of naira, some endorsement, and some nice fancy car. So the programming methods that have been used over the years, I want to share with you on this show that they have become obsolete. They need to change. The way we present agriculture, it is a very big business. It is a big employer or potential employer of labor. And first and foremost, it makes us or enables us to stay alive because we need to eat. So we have no business, for instance, as a country, having food scarcity of any kind. If we begin to deploy and make visible the tools and resources that are available to us, especially the digital side of things, and we begin to design or redesign our programs to be more inclusive and be more focused and targeted at exposing these options as something that is attractive and interesting to the larger size of our demographics, which are the youth, then you will see that these things begin to become a no-brainer, and the results, the outcome and the impact that we expect will live with us.
Thank you so much. I still have some more questions, but I'd like us to take a very quick break and we'll be right back. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to the show. It's still Smart Farming on IITA TV, and this is where we discuss digital tools that are tailored to focus on achieving climate smart agriculture in Africa. And I've been having this conversation with Mr. Charles. Once again, thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. Okay, so far from our conversation, something that you've highlighted is how these tools should be structured or designed in a way that would be usable for all demographics. Now, if we're talking about youth, maybe it's easier for youth to catch on. How then do we factor the smaller holder farmers here in Africa? I mean, not all farmers are as educated as some of our youths. So what can be done in that sense to bring them on board?
When I hear conversations like this, not just in agriculture or climate smart conversations, I think that a lot of assumptions are made. Generally speaking, Africa and its interaction with internet, there's a lot of penetration that is misrepresented. This is my personal view. It then means that most people have direct or indirect access to tools that they need. Sometimes it is something as simple as WhatsApp. Sometimes it is tools as simple as SMS. I will say that on the side of the business or solutions providers, research institutes and academia, government or innovation hubs, it is very important to realize that Africa has a huge infrastructure challenge. But that challenge sometimes presents opportunities. And one of the things that we can do or should do is that we need to ensure that even in the design of the programs, the interactions, the products, and the tools that we are talking about, that we make sure that their resource utilization factor is not too heavy. One of the easy examples is that whilst a lot of solutions built in places where internet is super fast can do real-time, let me use English that everyone can understand, can transmit data real-time. Those that are built for resource scarce, no, where internet is not as good, should factor in cache systems where if I capture something, the tool or app can save it, and as soon as it sees internet, it can then push it to the cloud or whatever storage system is required. That is very essential. But we must not rule out all the other communication possibilities that exist with technologies that are even older and cheaper. You have SMS, right? SMS provides information, and you can also have USSD. USSD on feature phones can be used from banking to smart tech to sending information to receiving information in a way and manner that if all you could do was to use the alpha numeric, like the numbers, or you can type basic sentences or make basic inputs, you will be able to communicate with tools and resources. So for the designers of those tools or the owners, providing those interaction touch points is very critical. But again, I would leave this by saying that there's a note of concern to say that with our demographics shifting very quickly, internet may not be cheap, but if we approach agri and smart, climate smart tools and resources and agriculture value chain from a point of or position of business, people are interested in it. They will buy smartphones, they will learn how to use it, and this will not be a problem. Our manner of approach is part of the reasons, or a part of the reasons why we keep giving excuses. If somebody is in a particular village and he knows that WhatsApp will make him money, people watch Premiership from the most remote parts of this country because they have identified with it and there's an affinity to Chelsea, Arsenal, XYZ. So if you presented agriculture to be, for lack of a better word, sexier for our demographics, the way they follow after Davido, Burna Boy. So there's a soft power conversation that I'm having here to say that the way and manner we present climate smart agriculture, things, the tools and the resources around it, the way and manner we communicate it, the way we welcome people into it, the way we present the business options, the job options, if we change that, then we could solve all of these things that we call infrastructure challenges, because other sectors have been able to find a way. Recently, one of the X-rated, is news, big news, one of the X-rated websites owned by a British guy is making far more money than bigger endeavors, because people are finding ways, especially from Africa, to browse X-rated sites. So it is about the way and manner it is presented so that it can derive the required interest. Our population is 70% young people. Presentation of climate smart agriculture and the entire value chain is not representative of our demographics as a nation. So I think that is where the real solution lies.
Thank you so much. This then would take me to my final question. How do you then intend to leverage on your partnership, your network with IITA to achieve a climate smart agriculture?
Oh, this has been a wonderful week. I can tell you that this week is going to be, the outcome is going to be impactful. First of all is that we have a national network of innovation hubs, incubators, accelerators, and co-working spaces, over 200 of them across 31 states of this country. Many of them have the capability to interface with climate smart agricultural value chain. For some of them, it could be on the creative sector, designing and creating these programs to be more interesting. For some others, it could be the actual tech, the building of the tech. For the rest of them, they're already into agri, so it could be in aggregation, in market access, in funding, and the rest of that. But one of the areas that we talked about today at the panel session that we had with at Interaction is the possibility of creating a program that brings to fore some of the kind of work done at a center of excellence like IITA and how it interacts with the Nigerian public, and putting it on a show that is like Nigeria's Got Talent. So why must it be only music that we put on big stage? So if big stage is where our people want to look, let's give them a show of their lives, talking about the things that affect them directly. The meeting you called me out of for this interview was actually discussing the operational modalities of such a program. So I do hope that this show will be part of that program in the near future. But I can tell you that my network will be able to, because what we do, I'm a serial entrepreneur. We don't just talk, we like to do. And our doing is not research type of do. You know, research has all these methodologies and you follow process, you test, then we do all. We just throw the baby in the swimming pool and then they are trying to drown and we are trying to save them and we pull and then somehow something happens and the baby is swimming, all right? So when we get involved in these kind of things, we kind of bring that element of risk-taking and the daredevil spirit of doing, even without knowing where the end game is, to being able to create. And having partners like IITA brings to bear the credibility, the experience, and the technical know-how so that whatever it is we are promoting has substance behind it. And that connection brings us to the Nigerian people, the interaction that it has, and international and global partners and the possibilities that brings to the table. Like it or not, Nigeria remains a big economy and an economy to watch across the globe. It then means that if we're able to expose just a few of the things that are possible, that are already happening in a country like Nigeria to the world by putting it on the big screen as some form of challenge, as some form of hackathon, as some form of talent discovery platform and talent showcase, you will realize that we will begin to create impact beyond our immediate environment. But within our immediate environment, it will change a lot of the things that we only moan and wail about. And it will turn those things to success stories that we can then begin to cheer and pump in the air. So this is what we are talking about.
Thank you so much, Mr. Charles.
Thank you.
It's been an insightful session with you.
Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed being on the show too. Thank you.
All right, this is where we begin to wrap up on this episode. But before we go, we'd like to take a very quick look at our Science Corner to see what we have for us today. Welcome back from the Science Corner. We hope that you've been able to pick a thing or two. As the saying goes, learning never ends. And so far we've had an insightful conversation, and we sure hope also that you've picked something from that as well. This is where we'll draw the curtains on today's episode. Please ensure to follow us on all our social media platforms to stay updated. Bye for now.